Chief futurist at futurist.com, researcher, keynote speaker, author Nicholas Badminton joining us on Canada Now. And Nick, this week we look at whether Meta's VR headsets are taking our personal data right off our faces.
Well, Meta, ex-Facebook, obviously, that's their new name. I mean, they've always been about collecting and harvesting data, putting it through the sausage machine, understanding us to the nth degree, and ultimately making us part of the product. So anyone that logs in, a great friend of mine, Nick Black, calls it fractional slavery. We click and we look and we view and we share, and all of that is feeding their algorithm, which feeds their profits, which ultimately feeds their market cap or whatever. And what's interesting is at Meta Connect in the past week or so, announcing the Quest Pro, their headset, really, really good. If you play games or you want to be involved in an immersive situation, this is good. This is the de facto one of the best headsets out there. I mean, there's China headsets coming. We can talk about that later. But ultimately, this idea that these new sensors and new ways of working, they're trying to teach you how to be emotive and how to be expressive in this new quote unquote metaverse, which is a strategy that towards a technological future that's not going very well for them right now. But this idea that we'll suddenly strap this headset on, they'll be able to literally harvest data from the final frontier of data, which is emotion and our faces, and ultimately the gait of our walk, and who we interact with and the emotions between people. Social networks haven't even gotten going yet until we really work out the social cohesion in society. And I think that this is really dangerous territory for them to play in. And it's, hugely valuable for them if they get it right. But it doesn't just make us more of the product. It literally takes that fractional slavery to the next level, where how we look, how we speak, how we interact is literally codified, and then that's exploited. And I think it's incredibly dangerous territory.
It certainly is. I mean, just thinking of the idea where they are able to anticipate whether or not we're going to like an ad. I mean, it's not just that, here comes, we recognize that there is a male walking down the streets, that walking down the street, this male must need to shave. So we're going to pop up an ad, on those ad billboards, whatever, that's going to put up something about shaving cream. That's one thing. And then it's even worse when we know that this person feels good when seeing something like this. So we're going to show them this ad. I mean, that's just creepy, man.
I mean, we come from a world of print adverts or billboards, or we walk past shop windows, and there's reams and reams and reams of work of research of how we consume that and how we process that. Now, some research back in the day, this is super interesting. They found that we can actually consume out the periphery of our vision. So what we can actually consume imagery subconsciously, and it has an effect, like buying effect or persuasion or whatever. In fact, there was a really famous design shop in the UK called Berg, and they're now defunct, but they were sort of top of the tree in terms of experimental stuff. And they built like a display unit for the high street that was only active when you weren't looking at it. And when you turn your face to look at it, it would turn itself off, just because of the subconscious persuasion that could actually happen. The psyops are here, Jeff. But it's interesting here. So when we're in these environments, 360 degrees, we're literally strapping the equivalent of what I say in keynotes of New York Times Square to our face. It's an overloaded, push of message, and buy this and be influenced by this person, and there's no escape from that overload of experience and advertising.
There's supposedly, with this Quest Pro, a default offsetting for face tracking, but it's believed that it's not going to be lasting long anyway. Like, they're going to just eventually get rid of it.
I mean, who knows? I mean, in a really good, equitable world, you give data back to the people, you let them own it, you let them have full opportunity to control the security and the privacy and whatever. And all online applications, terms and conditions, whatever, have not done a good job of giving that back to people. I mean, there's a social network called MeWe, which does allow that. Again, it's marginal at best. There are ideas around data dignity that's being explored in the office of the CTO of Microsoft, where they're saying, okay, you own the data, you become the arbiter of who gets to use it, and you can earn money from that if you choose to be part of that as well. And that's another pretty heavy, dark conversation we can get into. So this is, such a great piece of technology where you can have immersive gameplay. Potentially you could have meetings in the metaverse, inverted commas. It sounds awful to me, to be honest. And they've got an agreement with Microsoft Teams, which is a terrible platform that I've never had a good opportunity, a good way of working in that. And it just seems like there was someone I was reading online and interacting with, and they're like, why are we doing this? Well, gameplay, get it. Metaverse doesn't quite seem to hit the mark. Let's go and have Sunday lunch together in the metaverse. Just seems banal. And this is a strategy that's starting to fall apart. And after spending tens of billions of dollars on this, people aren't buying what Meta's actually selling.
Well, are we going to eventually, is Meta going to partner with Zoom, for example? You talk about Microsoft. Are we eventually going to be working from home and attending meetings on Zoom, and in doing so, giving up personal data?
Well, we already are, in a way, giving up personal data in one way. You kind of hope that there's an element of privacy in these platforms that we use today, but ultimately we give something away. We go into these virtual worlds, then we can profile the interrelationship dynamics of meetings, and then we can look across all the meetings in an organization, and then you can actually start to give people specific targets about being more chipper in meetings, more giving more contribution in meetings, whatever. And it just feels that there's going to be a huge amount of bias coming from this data harvesting. The quiet meeting person, the thinker, and the loudmouth in the corner, or like the person that's trying to sort of get in, or the moderate. All of these are very intricate human dynamics, and there's no simple line between intent and presence and output and productivity and achievement, right?
So are our avatars going to be going to meetings for us?
Do you know what? That'd be great. If you could actually have a sentient avatar. I would just send a sentient avatar of myself. It would just sagely nod once in a while, say nothing. I'm sure it could, it could be potentially it could be potentially gamified. And then we're getting into that. It's a really good point, Jeff. How do you prove that someone's behind the avatar?
Right, who the avatar is representing really is there.
And if you can actually truly create an avatar that's unique and doesn't look anything like you and fantastical, it's like, I turn up to meetings dressed as a cyborg raccoon. Why not? But I'm being very serious. Yeah. Why can't we just suspend belief and just have a fantastical world? This is what the metaverse, quote unquote, is supposed to be, fantastical. And when Meta and Microsoft said Teams, and do you know what the picture looks like? It looks like a bunch of people with no legs sat around a table looking at a screen. Why? Right. Why do we create this anthropomorphic representation in software? A lot of people have said, oh, it's for adoption. It's like, it's ridiculous. Why would we do it? Why would we choose to do it? It's crazy.
There needs to be, I think, a heightened level of distrust in these companies that can come up with technology like this, because we have not reached a point where there is enough transparency so that we know that we are safe. So our distrust level, if a 10 is where it needs to be, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are we right now?
Well, the apathetic that go ahead and sign the terms and conditions and spend all their time feeding the machine, They don't care. It's like, what have I got to hide? So I'd say that they're a 10. Someone like me, I'm like a scale of 0 and I won't touch it. Someone like you, Jeff, I'm not sure. Where would you lie on this?
I am extremely distrustful. Like, I'm always thinking that like, I'm not entirely sure someone else isn't watching this meeting right now that we have, that you and I have going. So, like, I'm always thinking, here's how I am. When I open my laptop, I put a sticky note over the camera.
Understand. Do you have an Amazon Alexa or a Google Home at home?
No, thank you.
Okay, you're highly distrustful. And if there's any listeners out there that are like, oh yeah, we just got it in the background, it's literally harvesting the ambient conversations and whatever you say in the house, whether they're like formal, casual with your kids, intimate with your partner.
I think my phone's doing that.
Dark ages, Jeff. Dark ages.
My phone is doing that. Like, honestly, if I could go back to the rotary phone and get a hold of somebody, I might do that.
I'll send you a link, Jeff, because someone's actually built a smartphone that does exactly just that. It's a rotary smartphone, and do you know what? I love these kinds of explorations of taking back our sort of our agency, right? Because it's all been sold down the river. But here's the ringer: we've all signed it away. We've signed away our rights. So what can we do, right?
Well, that's it. That's why we have this conversation, to stop and pause and see where we are. You alluded to, and I wanted to squeeze this in, headsets from China. So comparatively speaking, like, we're talking about the Quest Pro, courtesy Meta. Like, is that the best out there, or what about these headsets from China? Are they any better? Are they any? I wouldn't think they would be any safer in terms of losing data.
I mean, it's the same thing. Like, if you can plug them into like Facebook or Meta or whatever other platform, you still got the same issues. The thing is about headsets from China is this. I was chatting to someone that really works in the hardware side. They're better. They're cheaper. The Quest Pro is $1,500, right? US. That's a lot. That's a lot of bread. That's like nearly 2,000 Canadian, right? Yeah. Or just over. These Chinese headsets, they'll come out for $300 to $500, and they'll become prevalent. And ultimately, you know, what's the headset collecting versus from the networks that it plugs into? You know, what we're trying to do here, with whether it's an Apple Play or an Amazon Play, a Google Play, or a Meta Play, let's put them all in the same bucket. Buy our hardware, wear our hardware, use our experiences, enjoy connecting with your community and the people within it. And we're going to basically codify your experiences and feed it back to you like pigs in a pig pen.
Well, Chief Futurist at futures.com, researcher, keynote speaker, and author Nicholas Baminton. Getting the Post-it note ready for when we disconnect here. Nick, appreciate it. Thanks, pal.
Oink, oink.